We celebrate veterans on Veterans Day, but not Donald Trump and his administration. On one hand, he's running to the United States Supreme Court for permission to starve Americans, including veterans, all below the poverty line in red states and in blue states, but mainly in red states. He thinks that he's getting political wind at his back for doing that most inhumane of things. See, we like our presidents to have a heart, and heartless presidents are soon shown the door. At the same time, he's abusing veterans who, along with seniors and children and babies and the disabled below the poverty line, count on that average of $350 a month to pay for food. He runs to the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, and he demands to be able to abuse and physically assault and beat veterans, clergy, members of the media, and First Amendment protesters. He's trying to get out from under a new federal order, which just makes federal forces comply with the Constitution and not use unreasonable force. Literally an order that says, don't use your car to hit protesters and journalists and clergy and veterans who are on the streets protesting against the lawlessness of the Trump administration. Don't fire rubber bullets at them. Don't hit them with pepper ball and tear gas. Don't tackle them from behind. And the Trump administration's like, we don't like that. We want the right to do all of those things. Let's run to the Seventh Circuit. So we're going to talk about what's going on at the United States Supreme Court with the SNAP program, as the government may or may not open. I'm not so sure the government is opening in the next 24 to 48 hours. Hakeem Jeffries and the House are up in arms against the senators like Chuck Schumer who have betrayed the cause. The fight here was to keep the government closed unless Donald Trump finally capitulated and agreed to lower insurance payments by making sure that Obamacare and Affordable Care Act was affordable with tax credits so that your health care coverage didn't double and triple. So fighting for the middle class, the working poor of America, focused on the kitchen table politics that Tuesday night told us the Democrats are right to focus on, whether in New York by way of a progressive social democrat or in New Jersey or Virginia by way of a set of moderates, all focused, laser focused on the economy. It's the economy, stupid. And Donald Trump, of course, not doing any of those things. So I'm not sure the government is reopening that fast. Either way, we need the Supreme Court to rule. By the time we're together here, while I'm with you, we could be getting a Supreme Court ruling. I'm going to have to update it, probably on Legal AF Substack Live. It's could come in late tonight. This Supreme Court's known for its 1 a.m. orders. Tariffs and Donald Trump are back in the news, mainly because Donald Trump finally woke up and figured out that his lawyer got his ass handed to him at the United States Supreme Court. I'm talking about the Solicitor General, John Sauer, in arguing that tariffs weren't revenue producing and therefore weren't taxes and therefore were something that a president can do under his foreign affairs and Article 2 powers, which led to a lot of head scratching by Trump appointees like Amy Coney Barrett and the Chief Justice John Roberts, and even Gorsuch, who all said, this looks like revenue producing policy to me, and that looks like a tariff as a tax, and a tax has to be passed by two chambers of Congress and signed by a president. So there was a 12:37 a.m. freakout session by Donald Trump we'll cover here now that I have you on the edge of your seat. And we'll touch on the pardons. 77, I'm not talking about the crazy ones, like people convicted of fraud who have been let go, people have cheated in athletic races that have been pardoned. Darryl Strawberry of the New York Mets pardoned. Talking about the 77 people who participated in the attempted overthrow of democracy, fraudulently sending in fake elector certificates in order to jam up and gum up the works of a peaceful transfer. And the lawyers that supported Donald Trump, who were all many of which were indicted on state level. They've now been cleared of federal crimes with a pardon. I'll talk to you about why I think that was done. And we'll talk about this new reporting coming out of the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post. No surprise. Once again, Donald Trump has purged a cabinet level position and an administrative level position of its watchdogs, of its ethicist, chief ethics officer, gone. Chief legal officer, general counsel, gone. Chief inspector general, gone, of Freddie Mae and Fannie Mac, when they turned around as insiders, as whistleblowers, probing Bill Pulte and how he got his hands on all that private financial information that he sliced and diced and edited and misrepresented to the American people to try to publicly shame Adam Schiff, a senator, New York Attorney General Tish James, and a member of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve about mortgage fraud. How did he get his hands on it? He should not have been able to slice and dice and edit and mischaracterize private financial documents. And that's what those people were looking at, and they've been fired. I want to talk about that as well. We're here on The Intersection. I do the show once a week on Tuesday nights. Yes, the brothers finally gave me a show. And I really appreciate you all being here. It's done better than even my wildest imaginations. Several 100,000 people a week listen to it, watch it, and help support all that I do on Legal AF. I do 40 videos a week at the intersection of law and politics on Midas and on Legal AF. I curate the Legal AF YouTube channel, which has a dozen contributors. We do 10 or more videos a day. I'm on a few podcasts. Legal AF, you might have heard of, The Intersection, of course. But without your fervent support and the vibrancy of this community, the support of this community, we'd be nothing without you. And so I do appreciate each and every one of you who tune in here, help us continue to grow what we're doing here. Let people know about the audio version of The Intersection. You can pick it up there and listen to it at your leisure. And of course, right here on YouTube. Welcome to the people that are here with us on Veterans Day, Tuesday night. All right, let's jump into it. We've got, let me update you on everything related to SNAP, what used to be called food stamps. It's the anti-hunger program. 1 in 8 Americans, 42 million Americans, 16 million children. Just think of those numbers in the most successful economic country in the world, that we have 1 in 8 who are below the poverty line and need federal assistance just to have the dignity of being able to know where their next meal is coming from. Food security, it's called. And a lot of fast-moving parts here. It is now up at the United States Supreme Court. The First Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the order of Judge McConnell related to ordering that the full $8 billion in November payments, were rapidly moving to Thanksgiving and beyond, but that the full $8 billion be paid. Trump administration paid $5 billion, then tried to claw it back over the weekend with conflicting memos. And then on top of that, some states got the full $5 billion, their portion of it out. Some states, a lot of red states didn't. And now we're hearing, because I just interviewed Rob Bonta, the Attorney General of California, that some merchants aren't even accepting fully funded cards that have the benefit on it for fear that they're committing a crime. Which means human beings are worrying about how to feed themselves and those in their family who are the most disadvantaged Americans, most fragile population in America. Donald Trump doesn't care about that. He's made them cheap political pawns in the shutdown showdown. Yeah. And a lot of them are his own voters. Talk about people voting against their interests. And I will remind Donald Trump and the Trump administration, they may be poor, they may be below the poverty line, but they are Americans and they vote. And so the First Circuit made its ruling. Then after the First Circuit, or on the same day, the First Circuit supported with a scathing decision against the Trump administration, saying, pay the $8 billion. You've got the way to do it. You've got the means to do it, supporting Judge McConnell. Then Judge Talwani in Massachusetts, in a companion case brought by the 23 attorneys general, she entered a temporary restraining order blocking, until she has a hearing, blocking the weekend attempts to claw back the $5 billion, and now has entered the temporary restraining order related to that. Now we move to the United States Supreme Court, Ketanji Brown Jackson found a way to box Trump in. She gave the First Circuit less than 2 days to make their decision. They made the decision against the Trump administration. She then was about to lift her stay. She has now full briefing up at the United States Supreme Court about whether there's going to be a stay now for the duration of an appeal. And of course, the states and others are opposing it. We're going to get a ruling. Are there 5 votes in the next 24 hours to deny Americans that which they should be entitled to, which is food security and dignity? And is the Supreme Court so heartless and so callous that they would cut off at holiday time the ability for families just to survive and make ends meet? Are there 5 votes for that? I'm looking at you, Amy Coney Barrett, John Roberts, and Gorsuch, because this is the time for you to stand up for the most underprivileged group in American society and protect them the way only a Supreme Court can. And while I know Ketanji Brown Jackson will issue a scathing dissent, I don't want a scathing dissent. I want a 5-4, 6-3, 8-1, whatever it's going to be decision that makes sure these people get the money they're entitled to. Could the government reopen in the next 3 days? Maybe. I mean, there's a lot of fighting going on. I'm not sure Chuck Schumer survives. I'm not sure he should survive. It's the second time he capitulated. I didn't like what happened with the big, beautiful bill, that bullshit bill. And that was Democrats bending over, including Chuck Schumer. And they did it again. You know, at some point, the Democratic Party has to be heard. I thought Tuesday night sent the message. I don't think Chuck Schumer and the old guard got the message. You know, whether it's a progressive ideal or a moderate ideal, but we have to get back to the basics of what it means to be in the Democratic Party and what it means to oppose the Trump administration. So I'm not sure when it's going to reopen. So we're going to have to count on for the people to get the other 40% of what they're entitled to in November and maybe pushing it into December. We're going to have to rely now on the Supreme Court in the next 24 to 48 hours. As it comes out, even if it comes out while I'm on the air or tonight, I assure you, come over to Legal AF, the YouTube channel, and Legal AF Substack Live. I'll do a live to report on it there. That's one of the benefits of becoming a full-fledged member of the Legal AF community as well, along with being here on the intersection. I want to talk about Judge Ellis and the bravery of Judge Ellis and the Seventh Circuit next. So it's not enough for Donald Trump to starve the American people and ask for permission to do it from the Supreme Court, who would be complicit in it if they did agree. It's not enough in a large a nice percentage, a high percentage of people within the group that gets SNAP anti-hunger payments are veterans. He's also asking the Seventh Circuit to let him hit veterans and clergy and First Amendment protesters and members of the media with a car and tackle them and beat them up and assault them and batter them and use pepper spray on them and use rubber bullets on them at the Seventh Circuit. That Judge Ellis put a stop to it. She issued the last couple of days a preliminary injunction with a long categorical list of things she will not let the Trump administration and its forces do. Like use weapons, military-grade weapons on American people who are doing nothing more than legitimately First Amendment protest. Don't fire rubber bullets without warning. Don't use grenades and tear gas and pepper spray against Americans. Don't use unreasonable force. Comply with the Constitution. And she issued that order. The Trump administration, several days later, yesterday, filed an emergency appeal and a stay request to the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals that sits in Chicago. Now, they have sided against her once before, just to put our cards at the table. You know, I don't blow smoke or sunshine at the intersection. And Judge Ellis had ordered that a guy named Greg Bovino, who ran Operation Midway Blitz for the Trump administration that he report every day at 5:45 about the use of force on the streets. And the Seventh Circuit didn't like that. And they granted what's called a mandamus to stop or compel an official from doing something, in this case, a judge. And the mandamus ruling said that she had crossed the line from neutral arbitrator or arbiter into a person who's instead trying to do surveillance of an executive branch power. If they violate it, then a federal judge can do something about it. But she was more in a supervisory role, and they didn't like that. And so they overturned her order on that. Now, this is different. And the Seventh Circuit has said to the parties, I'm not going to grant the stay based on the papers, and gave them until Thursday, the Trump administration and the other side, to fully brief the issue, and then they'll make their ruling. I think it's 50-50. I like Ellis's decision. I think it's the right one when you're seeing an out of control federal force on the streets, abusing, firing pepper balls into clergy's heads, abusing the press, throwing them to the ground, using improper force, for these issues. She can't sit idly by. And while they may not want her to get reports, this is her dictating conduct and behavior. It may fly. We'll have to see what the Seventh said. And then, of course, it'll end up back at the United States Supreme Court, who are already trying to complete briefing off of another judge in Chicago, her order that the Seventh Circuit upheld about the nationalization and the deployment of the state militia in Illinois by Donald Trump. That is up with the United States Supreme Court. So you got two issues in Chicago, two different judges, and it's sort of all coming together here about how Donald Trump is abusing, just to troll J.B. Pritzker and the Democrats, Americans who are doing legitimate First Amendment protests, including veterans. I'm glad you're here with me. It's comforting for me to have you join with me here to talk about these issues, so I can give you honest commentary at the intersection of law and politics. There's a number of ways for you to support what we're doing here. The Intersection as a podcast is in the rankings of YouTube top podcasts. We're the youngest podcast on that list, but we are frequently in the top 100 of all podcasts, and that's all because of you. Watch us, send this off to friends, ask them to join the Intersection on Tuesday nights or whenever you want to watch it. Then listen to it. Just plug in the Intersection in Spotify or Apple. Leave 5-star reviews and comments, which I read, and that's really a way to help. And then, I run the Legal AF world for Midas. I've got 40 videos that go up on Midas and on Legal AF, the YouTube channel, before the week is over. I curate and run as the editor-in-chief of the Legal AF channel on the Midas Touch Network. We got about 12 different contributors. We're about to add the American Civil Liberties Union on as a contributor, along with Democracy Forward, Court Accountability Action, Civil Action, Shan Wu, Dina Dahl, Melba Pearson, the Pragmatic Optimists, Adam Klasfeld of All Rise News. We got an amazing group there. Cindy Blumenthal and Sean Walentz of Court of History. I think you're really going to enjoy Legal AF. So come over there as well. We're about to crash through the 1 million subscriber barrier, and that's all on you. It's all because of you. And it just gives us the street cred we need in the Legal AF world to get the newsmakers and get the former judges and the elected officials and the attorneys general and the lawyers that are in the courtrooms, Democracy Forward and ACLU, to join us. And so become a member. And then come over to Legal AF, the Substack, where all the filings that I talk about in my videos, we end up putting into the Legal AF Substack, along with analysis and commentary and the rest. And that's the way to support us. And we also have sponsors. So here's a word from our sponsors. Shh, I got a secret. I'm obsessed with my Lola blanket. From the moment I pulled it out of the box, I could tell that this wasn't your average throw. The faux fur is unbelievably soft, like luxury level soft. And it just makes my space feel calm, inviting, and put together. Even here in Miami, I love wrapping up with it at the end of a day. Watching a show with my family, answering emails, or just relaxing. It's become part of my daily wind-down ritual. Honestly, I'm already thinking about replacing every other blanket I own with a Lola. It's no surprise Lola is the world's #1 blanket, made with ultra-soft vegan faux fur and a signature 4-way stretch. It's machine washable, no pilling, no shedding, and it stays flawless after every wash. It's the perfect gift. Personal, beautiful, and something people actually use every day. Give the gift of softness this holiday season with Lola blankets. For a limited time, our listeners are getting a huge 40% off their entire order at lolablankets.com by using code LegalAF at checkout. Just head to lolablankets.com and use code LegalAF for 40% off. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Welcome back to The Intersection. Well, as expected, the United States Supreme Court has ruled, and they've overruled Ketanji Brown Jackson. They've decided to extend the stay, meaning they're going to block the $3 billion worth of additional food payments to those who are the most needy in our society. That's a group that's never missed a meal, I assure you. They're going to do that until Thursday at midnight. Talk about playing politics. They must believe that the government's going to reopen and solve the problem for them. It may reopen tomorrow. I'm not so sure about that. And if it doesn't, then what? Now, Ketanji Brown Jackson in the order made it clear that she would not have agreed and does not agree with extending the stay, and she would deny the application for a stay. Leave it to Ketanji Brown Jackson to have the heart and the soul and the conscience of the United States Supreme Court. So, once again, 42 million Americans, 16 million children are going to have to make do on 60% of their food support until Thursday. How do we feel about that? And if we don't like it, then we need to get up and do the voting thing and the protesting thing and the winning in court thing and be in a position where Donald Trump doesn't have the ability to appoint another member of the United States Supreme Court in the future because the Senate is controlled by Democrats. See how that plays out? Let me turn now back to the United States Supreme Court and talk about tariffs. Donald Trump woke up and decided that he's going to lose on the tariffs, despite all of his administration all around him whistling past the graveyard after listening to that oral argument. Nobody listening to that oral argument that's in their right mind believed that Donald Trump was going to win that. Even the Trumpers, even the MAGA 6, or at least Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett and Roberts, questioned how a president, even with broad foreign affairs and Article 2 powers, how a president can impose tariffs that is the core constitutional non-delegable function of Congress. And they got into, they set a trap for John Sauer, the Solicitor General, Donald Trump, one of Donald Trump's good friends, and he stepped in that trap over and over again during the 2.5-hour oral argument. Of course, the Trump administration took to the airwaves, including Carolyn Leavitt and Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary. He's going to win. It's a winning argument. He's win. It's a Super Bowl. Super Bowl of the economy. He's going to win. Unfortunately, nobody told Donald Trump that, because he kept saying things to undermine the legal arguments in that courtroom. The thing that is going to make him lose is that the majority of the Supreme Court believes that the tariffs are a tax and that the tariff tax is being passed on to the American consumer. And what does Donald Trump say every time he gets a chance? We're raising money. It's revenue, which means it's a tax. If it's a revenue generating item, it is only for Congress, not for the president. So every time he says $3 trillion on dividend, pay it back. We need an external revenue service to collect money from our adversaries and pay it to our Americans. That is a tax. Everybody knows that the tariff gets passed through by the American importer to the American consumer. 70% or more gets passed through. Donald Trump think, I'm going to just raise prices 50% and the suppliers are going to eat it. No, they're not. They're going to pass it through. Has he been to the supermarket? Does he see the prices of meat and coffee and anything else that's worthwhile, for sustenance? So suddenly Donald Trump woke up and he decided that he's going to lose, and he is going to, in particular, blame game Time to look for a scapegoat, John Sauer. So he blamed his own lawyers. Here's what he said in his 12:37 a.m. in the morning posting. The U.S. Supreme Court was given the wrong numbers. I'm sorry. By who? By his Solicitor General, obviously, who made the wrong arguments and kept answering the questions wrong in front of the justices. The unwind in the event of a negative decision on tariffs would be $3 trillion. It would not be possible to ever make that up. It would be insurmountable, a national security event. It's not sustainable. What's he talking about? Well, at one point, Amy Coney Barrett, who they were counting on for a vote, said to the advocate in front of her, suppose you win in tearing down the tariffs. How hard would it be to return the money? Would it be a total mess? He said, no. He said, you could do it through a tax break or something on your tax return, or it's not hard to pay back the money. And that freaked out. Just send back one of those checks that Donald Trump keeps bragging about. $2,000 for healthcare instead of having insurance. You'll get it. $2,000 tariff dividend. $5,000 Doge dividend. None of those checks have ever gone out, but we could send out checks. So I just find it, for me, it's an admission by Donald Trump that he's going to lose on the tariffs. His signature policy, if Obama's signature policy was Obamacare, if Joe Biden's signature policy was to pump $3 trillion into the economy to save it, the signature policy for Donald Trump, upon which all of his other policies is based, foreign and domestic, economic and national security, is the tariff scheme. He's already brought in several $100 billion, which he's going to have to return because it's not his. And, do something like regular presidents do. Like, don't tariff the world. Don't destroy global trade. And just raise money through income tax, like everybody else does. So let me end the show tonight, The Intersection, talking about this yet another scandal. Well, it's a day of the week, so it must be a scandal in the Trump administration. Bill Pulte, Freddie Mae, and Fannie Mac, the mortgage backstop. They're not regulators. They provide liquidity for mortgages in America. They tell banks, don't worry about troubled assets. Don't worry about bad loans. You make the loans. We'll backstop them. We'll sell them off in securities, and we'll keep the whole thing flowing. Now, they do have an investigative unit for people that commit mortgage fraud. But Bill Pulte, who's the Nepo baby of the Pulte real estate construction fortune in the South, bought his way into the administration, big MAGA Trumper, little baby Trumper. He's like 40. And he gave tens of millions of dollars to Donald Trump through his family as well. And he gets the big job that he wants, I guess. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And from that pulpit, I don't know if he's doing his job, but he's busy attacking the political critics of Donald Trump. So he's the one that went after Letitia James, New York Attorney General, Senator Adam Schiff, and on the Board of Governors, of the Federal Reserve, Lisa Cook. And he sliced and diced and took all sorts of documents about mortgages and signatures. And I'm like, how did he get all this? And it looked like it was illegal and crossed a lot of lines. He should be investigated by a Department of Justice that isn't itself corrupt and criminal. And now people are asking the same question. Why? Because it looks like they did. They fired their general counsel, their chief ethicist, and their head of the Inspector General's office for those two entities, because they decided to probe Bill Pulte as to whether he had gotten these documents illegally against policy and law. And Bill Pulte didn't like that. And so there's no real board there. It's all controlled by Donald Trump. So they fired the chief ethics officer, the general counsel, and the Inspector General. And this is what Trump has done. This is tyranny, right? This is the road to tyranny. You fire all the lawyers that are in all the departments. You fire 5,000 people in the Department of Justice. You fire inspectors general, which he did in every agency when he started. You go after the press and make them the enemy of the people. You make the people the enemy of the administration. You attack and try to crush First Amendment rights. This is the playbook, folks, that we are watching, and we're holding him accountable here on The Intersection, on Legal AF and the rest. What's going to happen now that the whistleblowers have been fired? They're going to get pulled before Senate and the House, the Democrats are going to lead shadow committees until they get control of those two organizations. And we're going to hear from these people as to why they were fired. And we're going to put heat on Bill Pulte and to get him fired, if not criminally indicted into the future. May I remind Mr. Pulte that there's a 5-year statute of limitations. The next administration could certainly investigate him and prosecute him. See, the table turning part here is fascinating to me. It's almost as if the Republicans don't think the tables will ever be turned, but they will be. Because when the House is in the control of the Democrats and the Senate too, investigations will be opened, oversight will be performed, checks and balance will be returned. And people like Bill Pulte and Pam Bondi and Ed Martin and the rest of the enablers, Lindsey Halligan, will be investigated by a special counsel, perhaps prosecuted and indicted, and perhaps jailed. We just have to work hard here together on the intersection. I'll do my part, giving you the information you need at the intersection of law and politics. You do your part by becoming a loyal part of the audience. Support us here on the YouTube channel. Support us on the audio versions. Keep us at the top of the rankings. I'd like to get the intersection for you into the top of the charts of Apple on the audio versions. I'd like to keep it in the top of the charts on YouTube. And then, of course, support us on Legal AF. The YouTube channel, help us crash through that 1 million subscriber barrier. That gives us the real street cred we need to continue to do our job. If you like our reporting, that's the way you support us. Become a member, a subscriber of the Legal AF YouTube channel. It's for free. There's no paywall. There's no outside investors. Come over to Legal AF Substack, and if you can find a way to swing a contribution of $7 a month, we will give you a return on your investment like no other at the intersection of law and politics. Thanks for being here. I celebrate the veterans in America as we're watching the purge of generals and admirals by a half-wit named Pete Hegseth. We celebrate those that put honor and duty to country before everything else and have sworn to uphold the Constitution and are an important voice here in resistance against the Trump administration. My late father was Army and in the National Guard. He would be repulsed, I assure you, by what he's observing with the Trump administration. He was in fear during the first term. He died right around the time of Donald Trump being elected the first time. And he feared the fascist qualities that he observed in Donald Trump. And I'm glad Dad's watching, that we can all be here together and together be the resistance, the crowds, the courage, and the courts all coming together at the intersection. So until my next report, my next video on Midas Touch or Legal AF, my next Legal AF podcast, I'm Michael Popok, saluting you, those who are in the resistance against a lawless Trump administration. Shout out to the Midas Mighty and the Legal AFers. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok firm, fighting for your justice.